Christian White, welcome to the San Juan Islands Museum of Art. Good of you to travel the distance that you have and bring your art with you. So if you could, begin by letting us know, or just giving a little bit of a synopsis of your life.
I was born and raised on Haida Gwaii, Islands of the People in Masset, and I still live there. I'm married. I have 3 children, grown children, and 6 grandchildren.
Oh, and a new one, I think, just arrived. Yes. Yeah.
But I was growing up with inspiration around me. Really, a totem pole standing right nearby my house, carved by Robert Davidson, and raised in 1969, probably when I was about 7 years old. And so that was a big inspiration for me to see. And my father started carving right around that time. And of course, when I got to 12 years old, then I start picking up his old tools and just start being creative, really, working in many different mediums, whalebone and copper, and then argillite. Argillite is a stone only found on Haida Gwaii, and it's been a Haida art form for many hundreds of years.
And you have an example here behind me, and it is the raven on a clamshell. Now, I have traveled to the Vancouver, BC museum, and there is a very large piece there with a similar image, but for me, it was the creation of man.
Yes, that was Bill Reed's Raven and the First Men, and that was made, I think the unveiling of that one was around 1980. I attended that, probably I must have been around 18 years old or so.
Yeah.
And my parents brought me along to attend that. I was already a full-time carver at that time. I think to create something on your own really is the big thing. When you're an artist, you have to have that drive, and then you got to get out in the world and sell it. You've got to go knock on some doors. And so I'm here, I'm knocking on a few more doors. And so, of course, pieces by those, master artists such as Bill Reed and Robert Davidson and Jim Hart, they've always been really inspirational to me. And then looking back at the old masterworks too, so it's something that, continues to inspire me. And what I hope to do is inspire the next generation. And over the last 25 years, I've been teaching younger people to carve with me. And such as these pieces here, you see behind me, I create the design, and then I apply them to the wood, and then I teach the next generation to paint the designs. And you can see this one here is called the 2 Decades box. And the reason it's called the 2 Decades box is because I started it 20 years ago, and I finally finished it this year. So, and it was just one of those things, and it coincides with the building of my Haida traditional house. And for the past 20 years, we've had many of our youth from our community come through there and learn how to work on our traditional art forms. Probably 3 or 4 years, or however long it takes, and then they're able to go off on their own. Like many of them, they're already selling their own work to gift shops and galleries and private commissions. And several of them have been nominated for the YVR award. It's an arts award, and so they're given an award of several thousands of dollars. And their challenge is to create a piece of artwork, and they have, and that's on display in the Vancouver airport.
So I have a few questions about the bentwood boxes, or in general. In general, I was told that the boxes were used as funeral boxes many moons ago, and so that is still today, or that's something that is past?
Yes, what they say in our culture is from birth till burial. And what they're saying about that is the bentwood boxes, they were a great part of the household. They were a great part of the canoe for traveling. So the boxes would be used for like water buckets. They'd be used for food, for cooking food in, using hot stones. They would have one small box and one larger box full of water. And so they would use tongs, and out of the fire they would take a stone and they would dip it through the small box, cleaning any ashes off really quickly, and they would put it into the larger box. And so, and you know, they would probably put several in there till the water's boiling. You know, they would have their vegetables in there, and then they would add their salmon. And then to top it off, after it's all cooked, you know, they would add a little bit of ulican oil, fish oil to it as a condiment, and you know, seaweed. And so they would have their chowder. So that was one of the most important ways of cooking. We didn't have pottery. The boxes were used for storing regalia, ceremonial regalia such as headdresses, you know, elaborately carved out of maple wood or cedar with abalone shell inlays, and precious furs of ermine, and flicker feathers and sea lion whiskers. And they would even have boxes for keeping the diapers and, you know, the moss, the shredded cedar bark. You know, that's what I say, from birth till burial.
The designs on the boxes, I see there are the salmon heads. Is that something that you've been given permission to use, or is that just this because of the whole Haida enclave, that this is what you would do normally, use that, integrate that into your design?
Yes, well, the designs you see on here, you know, were developed during the time when, like, our people did a lot of trade. So, you know, our people in Masset were known for making canoes, but they also made bentwood boxes. And the bentwood box, like I said, was also an essential part of the canoe, because you can't travel without luggage. And so, and you have to have your food, you got to have your water, you got to have your blankets, you got to have everything you need to go from one village to the next. And then, of course, when we had many canoes, we could take our canoes to other places that there was a demand for the canoes, like the Skeena River, the Nass River, or up into towards the Stikine River, or even further down the coast. So our canoes were in much demand, and also we wouldn't go there empty. We would have potatoes, you know, we would have dried halibut, we would have seal oil, we had seaweed, herring eggs, and so we would take it to these other tribes, and that didn't have that, and they would trade us for the canoes, for things that we needed. And so the designs were quite universal. On this one over here, we have what I call the sea chief. A sea chief is a being that you know, usually has these double eyes, like a little face in the eye, and so laid out. This one is laid out in the corner of the box. Sometimes they're laid out onto a chest, the same type of design. And each artist, you know, just because they're using their own hand, you know, they develop their own style. And this one here is based on more of a box that is kind of an ambiguous design, also with that's open for interpretation. It could be a whale, it could be a bear, it could be a frog, it could be eagle. You know, so it's open, just like some of the robes, some of the old Naheen robes. You know, like one person would call, oh, that's a diving whale. Oh no, that's a raven. You know, so they're open for interpretation. This is a feast bowl, and long back in the day, the chiefs would be invited to another chief's house, who is the host. The chief and his wife would be hosting the event, and the children of the household would kind of be the servers. And so, so throughout the night, you know, many speeches would be given, and then towards the end of the night, after then their bowls would be filled with food to bring home to their families. And so it's what we call kaukas, take home food. Yeah, they had takeout even back.
That's fun. fun.
But yeah, so I would call this Laganan Kishke, a feast bowl. It portrays an eagle on the side. This would be the eye. This would be the curved beak here. And there's also a human face. And then the wing flows back here, the wing and the feathers. Also a little human in there, the salmon head. And then on this one is the raven, the eye, salmon head portrays eye, and then tongue. Kind of a straighter beak, not as curved as the eagle. And then the wing here, flowing back. So it's so anyways, back in 2022, I carved the largest totem pole on Haida Gwaii. But it's not only carving the totem pole, raising the totem pole, it's what do you do after. And so we hosted a 2-day event. And during part of that event, we carried out 30 some of these feast bowls that we had painted. I had designed it along with my apprentice. It was part of our apprenticeship. So I just put her to work. I created these, but then I challenged her to paint all of these, and then we gave them away.
What about the totems that you've been involved with? Are there of course creatures there, animal forms, but are there also say deities or some type of what you're just mentioning about the mythological creatures?
Our totem poles are crest figures. They're our coat of arms, really. They're heraldic emblems. And so, like if that design's on my totem pole, then that means I could wear it on my robe also, or on my headdress. And so it's showing the other people, you're grouping, it's a grouping of crests, really. Each lineage has several crests, really. My father's crests were the beaver, eagle, frog, and butterfly, I think. And then on the raven side, my crests are the grizzly bear, the shark, and the two-fin killer whale. So when I'm carving a totem pole, I like to incorporate stories. The stories are, how we got the crests in the first place, or else the mythological beings that gave us the crests. And the mythological beings they're associated with different parts of our island. And so every river on the island, every point of land, all these different, all the reefs, they're all inhabited by supernatural beings, the mountains, everything. And so we have stories about them, and so like I said, it's up to the artist to interpret how they look, and even beings of the sea, mythological beings could be portrayed in a number of ways, and so it's really something that we have to, we've got to, it takes some imagination, but of course it's done in a conventional way too. Our art is based on the ovoid shape, the U shape, the split, and we can arrange those. Each artist arranges them differently. So.
We're so fortunate that you came all this way to be here representing your people. Thank you.
Yes. How Tlangwaf Kalag.
And that is?
I thank all of you.
It's a beautiful language.